Chapter 7. Nova. Waking up, I didn't feel like moving. I stared up at the swirl patterns in the ceiling, feeling my stomach turn and twist, an agonizing torture. I was anticipating a new day, one where I could either hide in my room or face the world and explain what everyone saw yesterday while Deacon and I held hands in the canoe for all the pack to see. It was harmless, but some probably wouldn't see it that way. Yesterday had been a devastating event for my heart. Drifting near the pack house without realizing it, the canoe had absent-mindedly made its way directly in front of the backyard and everyone was staring at us. He was staring at us, at me, with so much intensity that it had me shivering. Thankfully, no one could see my face up close, red-rimmed, puffy eyes on display. Deacon managed to snap me out of it, forcing me to help paddle us back to the dock, trees obstructing the view of the other wolves once we got far enough down the bank. I think I'm just going to lay in bed today. I didn't want to have to face anyone. The embarrassment of not only being caught in an intimate position with my best friend but also having my mate taken from me by a one-night stand was too much to bear. Even though the pack was giving them dirty looks as I watched the festivities from my bedroom window that day, I was so embarrassed having to deal with my mate being taken away from me. That mate of mine had a conscience about him and right now I hated that he did, but he wouldn't just leave her to fend for herself. He was too much of a good man. If only he had just waited for me. Now everyone knew the details, they felt pity for me I'm sure. The poor, 17-year-old, newly shifted, beta-blooded juvenile, finding her mate so soon, the alpha's firstborn son. Having to watch that wolf he brought back with him as she grew their wolf pup in her belly. Everyone would give me the pity stare, I just know it. The wolf that the moon goddess made for me had gotten another female pregnant during a heat-induced haze and now I'm sure she will bear his mark eventually. She will be my Luna one day, the position that was meant for me. I didn't care about any of that, though, not the titles, I just wanted my mate. We were taught about the mate bond in school, how it overpowers every tangible feeling you could possibly hope for, how your mate is your gift from the moon, complementing your personality. They were your other half, the person you will always be drawn to. There's no escaping the pull of the mate bond. During a female's heat, their mate will break down doors just to get to them, which is why our parents have to keep us guarded. It's every male's kryptonite, their female's scent. I would have to hide when my time came. I don't know what happened with my mate's situation with that female, but I know I'm thankful that the Alpha and Luna live on another part of the property with their family so I wouldn't have to smell my mate and the other wolf. It would kill me. A knock on my door had me bolted to my position, afraid of who it might be, eyes going wide. I had been so lost in my thoughts, I hadn't even heard or smelled him approaching. It's me, Nova. Open up, Deacon. I rolled my eyes as I threw the blankets off my body and moved toward the door, my knees buckling slightly under my weight. I hadn't been able to eat still. Unlocking the door, he came in swiftly with dried blood all over his hands, cuts running up and down his arms. What happened to you? ? I gaped, looking him up and down, my hand covering my mouth as brows raised into my hairline. He looked awful, so I knew this had to have happened within the last 10 minutes, a short enough time frame that the blood had not started to clot. He shut the door and leaned against it with a smug smile on his barely scathed face. I finally gave Big Brother a piece of my mind. My mouth fell open but didn't say anything. I didn't want to know. He did seem pretty proud of himself. I needed to give him some sort of ego boost. You didn't have to do that, Deacon. I shook my head, watching his face fall slightly. My lips tilted upward and I couldn't help but smile. But, thank you. For standing up for me. You really are the best. His grin was back in a nanosecond as he walked to my closet and began throwing clothes at me in a hurry. A dress pelted me in the face just before my hands could catch it. Deacon, what the hell? Get dressed. We're going down to eat breakfast. He smiled, poking his head out of my closet. Despite having just been in a fight, he looked pretty good. He must have won if he was so happy. I shook my head, feeling anxiety creep up my spine. I didn't want to see everyone. I just wasn't ready. Yes, he ordered, standing in front of me as my fearful gaze met his. And then we are going for a run after my training. You need it. Your wolf needs it. Deacon was right about that. I haven't shifted since my first shift and I didn't even know how my wolf felt. She was stronger than me, I knew that much. All the emotions I was going through were constant and every now and then, I would feel her anger and aggression mixed with a longing sadness, but I couldn't feel her exact thoughts on the matter. I didn't know what she could be capable of. Especially with her being stronger than me right now. She could take over, I knew that was possible, but I made sure to spend hours in wolf form the first time so I could try my self-control over her. There is always that chance, though. How would she handle competition? I don't think that's a good idea, Deacon. I peered up at him warily, his blue eyes softening down at me. He bent a little, resting his hands on my shoulders. You'll be fine. You're strong. I just shook my head, unsure of his words and unsure of myself. His face suddenly turned hard, eyes narrowing as he stood straight. Get dressed. No arguing about it. You have to face them at some point. I know you're not ready, but you need to act like it. People will only talk longer if you're not showing your face. You're with me, I'll deflect anyone's stare. Use me as your shield. Now go. I stared at this tall male, my best friend since childhood. He was my savior, growing into an adult male, but he didn't understand the feeling of having your heart ripped out. He cared about what people thought about me. He wanted me to be strong and I loved him for it. With tears in my eyes, I nodded, clutching the dress to my body and turned toward the bathroom to change. Deacon was the only one who was really there for me. I'm sure my parents would be as well, but I was too embarrassed to really talk to them. Deacon looked out for me like he was my own brother.